All right, so shut down that dump was the Gleaner headline for the article revealing the findings from NEPA's air quality report, which stated that residents in the surrounding areas are being exposed by harmful pollutants. So let's have a chat with Suzanne Stanley, who is the Chief Executive Officer of, is it the
Jamaica Environment Trust.
Jamaica Environment Trust.
Yep.
Good morning, Suzanne.
Morning, Neville. Morning, Simone.
Hi, how are you doing?
What, Suzanne, we've been talking about this Riverton dump from whenever I can remember. You're suggesting it shouldn't be there, it should be moved. But let me start there before I get to the report. Move it to where?
Well, obviously a site suitability study would be necessary. But, you know, we've been talking about this for years, and yet there seems to be no movement in that direction.
Okay. Oh. If it's not moved, well, what's going to happen? Because I was reading how many harmful pollutants are around. It's going to be hurting folks. So what's the next move then if you're not going to move it?
Right. So when we're looking at the report that was released by NEPA last week, that was a report that was in relation to the fire that was at the end of July, beginning of August, right? Yep. And so that was an incident. And the results of the report were not really very surprising. There was a huge fire at the dump, and it negatively impacted air quality. But what was concerning was that in the report, we saw where there's already air quality issues in the area. It's an area that is already suffering from poor air quality. So an incident like this is actually making what is a bad situation much worse.
So let's talk about the study. Marked increases in toxic gases and particulate matter that could have possible health impacts, especially to sensitive groups. 46 pollutants were detected from the analyses conducted on volatile organic compound samples, 34 of which were detected above the lower concentration limit of the method of analysis, higher than normal concentrations of benzene and, is this toluene?
Toluene.
Toluene. Was that surprising to you? I read a report that said some of those compounds were like 2.5 times what it should be.
Yes, and I think that as it related to the benzene, it was 40 times. The levels were detected at 40 times what the annual levels have been set at. And this is really concerning because prolonged exposure to these kinds of substances can cause cancer. They are carcinogens, so they have a carcinogenic effect. The particulate matter, especially when they're talking about the 2.5, so those are the really, really small particles that can get into your lungs. It can really cause very terrible respiratory impacts.
So you said we've been talking about this for years, Suzanne. Is this a lack of will, or is this a lack of proper? So is it that the government can't find anywhere, or is this just that we're waiting too long to do something?
Well, action has been needed for a very long time. This is tying into some of Jamaica's bigger waste management challenges. So, you know, waste management has never really been a priority in the country. You know, things like, you know, how we manage our garbage, it all ties into where we send our garbage, you know.
Right.
And, you know, in 60% of the cases, that is the Riverton dump. And so we're very concerned that there has been this kind of inertia, you know, this lack of action as it relates to doing something about Riverton, which has been a problem for years, I mean, even decades, if some would say, and the way that we're managing our garbage in Jamaica.
Yep, it says that same thing, right? I think it's toluene, brain and nervous system. If it's not moved, is there anything that the residents, the surrounding residents can do if it's not moved? Because I'm not certain they could prove to anyone that because of Riverton they got this illness or got that illness. So is there anything that they could do while they're
well,
still
you know, following the last major fire at the hear me calling it landfill, I'm starting to subscribe to the government rhetoric. But no, it's not a landfill, it's a dump. But following the last major fire in 2015, we were promised that there was going to be a health impact study. You know, looking at what some some of the impacts on the people's health in the area had been from that fire and just, prolonged exposure to fires of that nature and the poor air quality in the area. It never happened. So that's one of the things that we're hoping to see coming out of this most recent fire and these very disturbing results that have been presented in this most recent report. A health impact study. What is the impact of being in that area, working in that area, living in that area on people's health? And the other thing that we would want to see is some proactive disclosure of air quality data. So yes, we've had this disclosure as it related to this fire, but we would want to see more regular updates on air quality in the area.
Is this something that you could do independently, Suzanne, or is it something that you'd have to wait on the government to do?
Well, the health impact study, it's quite an expensive type of study that would be needed. We would investigate whether we can find funding to do something like that. But, we would need the buy-in from the various government agencies to participate, to facilitate.
Right. So if it's provable, the health impact study, if done, and cause is found, then do the folks have recourse, legal recourse?
There could be legal recourse, but, more importantly, it's not just about taking legal action. It's about fixing the problem so that we are addressing the health impacts of this site. So, whether it means, moving the dump to another location, improving the way that site is managed, gradually, slowing down operations at that site and transferring different types of waste to different locations, addressing the health issues in the area, improving the quality of service at the local clinics, etc.
Yeah. I asked the question already and you actually answered, but I'm going to ask you again. Have you identified somewhere else that it could be? And double barrel, what's the difference with a landfill? Because you said it's not a landfill. So were it a landfill, would it be all right?
Yes, a landfill is a better managed site. You see more separation of waste. You see the capturing of the liquids and the gases associated with the waste on the site. It's not just about identifying one site. Essentially, what you want to do is start, separating the different types of waste. So tires would go to one place. Plastic bottles would go to another place. Okay. All your organic waste, things that are compostable, would go to another location. So what you'd be left with, you would send to a landfill where it could be dealt with in the correct manner, in a more safe manner, a more sustainable location.
And all those places could be in areas where people live?
In the first world, there are often landfills, transfer stations for waste right in the middle of a city.
And you would never know because they're so beautifully kept.
Yeah. Because they're properly managed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope we don't have to talk about this anytime soon again, but thank you for weighing in this morning.
We've been talking about it a lot.
I know,
yeah,
I know, yeah, I know. Hopefully
thanks a lot.
Something can now be done. Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate it.
Stay safe.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Chief Executive Officer of the Jamaica Environment Trust, Suzanne Stanley.
All right, guys, do you know if your child is in a gang, being courted, considering? Seems like a random question, but very important one. We're going to find out how you can detect what's going on after this break. We'll be right back.